In many cases, I said that when you want me to do an analysis, it would help to tell me also what you know already of your data, or which impression you have of your data. In this video you will see a case where they asked for key performance indicators and they didn't tell which they had already in place, and that sounds extremely suspicious because if you know the word KPI, for sure you already calculated some, especially if you have so neat data as the one you will see. As you can see, this company provided online sales data, where I did my stuff, marketing spend, and I felt extremely pleased to see this, discount coupon that had a problem on month that we will discuss, and then the customer that came from Excel. Instead, the other ones came from a database, most likely an e-commerce. They asked for KPI, they didn't tell which they had already in place, so I did the, let's call them, basic ones, at least from my point of view. The quantity sold per day is not useful as a KPI expressed with this chart, because you can notice that we can't read it well, and for this reason we need an aggregation that I did in a not so elegant way here in a pivot table. And if you look at this chart, you see that we might have some seasonality around April and in the summer. And then you see it goes down, and that might look like a red flag. But as I also said, for statistical models, if you just look at one KPI, it becomes problematic in terms of approach. So, since they provided also the marketing spend, that again I liked it a lot, I did a new sheet where I calculated the difference between the revenues and cost for each month, and with my surprise they have a growing raw balance per month. Raw because of course I don't have the cost of employees, the cost of the office, the cost of the accountant, and so on and so on. But anyway, you see that those two KPI are in conflict, and I don't know if you agree, but I personally prefer this one because it is more positive. Then I also prepared a pivot table that I put directly inside a new sheet to do something that is the Pareto chart. Basically, you of course heard about the 80-20% rule because it got also popularized by many movies, and also in this channel maybe more on the podcast side. But anyway, sometimes it becomes reasonable in terms of logistic and in terms of headaches to just sell products that give you the most volumes, in this case in terms of quantity. If we consider margin, it is an entirely different story, but we don't have this information in the data they provided. So if we just focus on quantity, we see that 5 categories sell more than 80% than the total. So if you stop at 5 categories, you could save time discarding the other 3/4. If you think about it, it might sound convenient with this approach. So in this, let's call it rudimental dashboard, I put this query of the pivot table. Then I need another stuff that comes from this column, and I wondered if there were days where the company that has a very decent health had a loss, and the answer is yes. And I found out with this simple query, and you notice that there is a pattern, Monday and Tuesday, and here I saw that on those days, on average, the company lost 1 grand. So, since the loss come from the marketing spend, one question can become, is it reasonable to stop at least the online campaigns on such days? And the answer to this is a bit more complicated, because we don't know the customer journey. We don't know if the client buys in the same day they see the ad. We don't know the time to purchase. So this is something to take with a pinch of salt and to discuss with the owner and probably other people inside of the company. That's all for this video. I did like 4 KPIs, so much less than what I generally advise, also because of the type of data I have. And I want to underline again that I have decent amount of data, but of course with more different kinds of data, I could have done more. Do you have an e-commerce and you want my outlook on your KPIs? Let's first discuss your situation in a free call you can book in the link you see in the description. I advise you the call, especially if you have somebody internally that does marketing, so media buying on Meta and Google and other kinds of offline campaigns. Do you want to suggest other KPIs for this case? Please tell me in the comments because I feel curious. Bye and see you the next time.